Hey there and welcome. Today, we're taking a little trip to a farm, but not for the reason you might think. We're going to learn something really useful for speaking English, how to talk about amounts and quantities. It's a skill you're going to use all the time, so let's get into it.
So, let's start with a little question. How many soils do you see? Does that sound quite right to you? If you're thinking, that sounds a bit strange, then you're spot on. And by the end of this little explainer, you'll understand exactly why. Here's the game plan. We've broken it down into 5 easy parts. First, we'll talk about why this all matters on a farm. Then, we'll get into countable and uncountable nouns. After that, we'll see how to ask questions about them, and we'll finish up by testing what you've learned. Okay, so why are we starting on a farm? Well, in agriculture, getting your quantities right is a really big deal. I mean, whether you're buying supplies or selling what you've grown, using the right words is absolutely key for making sure everyone's on the same page. Think about it. On any farm, you're dealing with 2 main kinds of things. On one hand, you have individual items you can count, right? Like these little plants here. 1, 2, 3. But on the other hand, you have stuff like water, which you can't really count piece by piece. This simple difference is what we're going to explore today. Let's start with that first group, countable nouns. The name pretty much gives it away, doesn't it? These are just things that you can count. So here's the official idea. A countable noun is anything you can count one by one. It has a singular form for just one thing, like one tool. And it has a plural form for more than one, like 2 tools. Simple as that. And farms are full of them. You can count specific animals, like a steer, a colt, or a mare. You can count your tools, like a moldboard plow. And you can even count something super tiny, like an individual's seed. If you can put a number in front of it, it's probably countable. And here's the rule in action. For most of these nouns, you just stick an S on the end to talk about more than one. 1 steer becomes 3 steers. Easy, right? Okay, now for the second group, uncountable nouns. These are a little different. Instead of thinking of them as individual items, we think of them as a whole thing, like a big mass or substance. An uncountable noun is something you just can't count up individually. You wouldn't say 1 water, 2 waters, would you? You just say water. And that brings us to the most important rule. It doesn't have a plural form. Soil is the perfect example. You don't count every little piece of dirt. You see it all as one big substance. You wouldn't say, I need 5 soils for my garden. You just say, I need some soil. Other great farm examples are things like water, a rich soil like loam, or compost. And here's a tricky one that's super important for business. Money. Now wait, you can count dollars and coins, right? Yes. But the idea of money itself is treated as a whole. It's uncountable. Okay, let's put this all side by side. This is where it really clicks. On the left, you've got countable nouns. You can count them, they have a plural form with an S, and you can say a or an before them. On the right, you have uncountable nouns. You can't count them, they have no plural form, and you don't use a or an. This chart right here is the key difference. So now we know what these 2 types of nouns are, but how do we actually use them when we're talking? Let's check out how to ask questions and make statements about how much or how many of something there is. This is a big one, so listen up. When you're asking about something you can count, you use the question, how many? For example, how many tools are in the shed? But for things you can't count, you have to use how much, as in, how much water do we need? Getting this right will make you sound so much more natural. Now, what about the words some and any? Well, the cool thing is, the rule is the same for both kinds of nouns. Generally, you use some in positive sentences, like I have some seeds, and you use any when you're making a negative statement or asking a question, like I don't have any money. And hey, I've got some great news for you, a little shortcut to make life easier. If you want to talk about a large amount of something, you can just use the phrase a lot of. It works for everything. A lot of animals, a lot of water. It's your new best friend. Super useful. All right, you've got the rules, you've seen the examples, now it's time to put it all into practice. Let's do a quick quiz to test out your new farm English skills. Ready? First question, look at this field here. Do these plants need many water or much water? Just think for a second. Can you count water? Nope. So, that means the right answer is much. Do these plants need much water? Okay, next step. You're looking to buy some animals. Would you ask, how many steers are for sale or how much steers are for sale? Well, you can definitely count steers one by one, right? So the correct question is, how many? And for our last practice question, let's fill in the blank. The farm doesn't have some new plows or any new plows. Remember the rule for negative sentences? That little word doesn't is our clue. It means we have to use any. The farm doesn't have any new plows. And we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Now that you've got the hang of it, what's one countable thing and one uncountable thing you can think of that you'd see on a farm? Getting this concept down is a huge leap forward for speaking English clearly. You did great.